Hello, everybody. This is Chavella Pittman, and this is my poster presentation. Is that the best use of your time? Myths about faculty labor and student pedagogical care. So, the short version is a lot of us function under the myth that the more time that you spend caring for students, the better. So, this study takes a look at whether or not that's the case or not, because we know that faculty time is limited, and we know that there are real consequences for faculty and instructor burnout. Those are negative consequences for faculty in terms of health consequences, less productivity, retention, but also when faculty are burnt out and instructors are burnt out, that has a negative impact on student learning and student retention as well. So it's important for us to examine it. So essentially, what this study did was ask a group of online students whether or not they took advantage of a range of practices that the instructor did. Some of them were student care practices, some of them were pedagogical practices. And what I mean by student care versus, pedagogical care practices, that's another myth. People think that they're the same. The things that are student care are more of the mental health pieces, being their social worker, being their mom, etc. The pedagogical care pieces are the pieces that are more about creating connection in the classroom, immediacy, those sorts of things. People just tend to get them confused. So both of those practices were studied. And before you continue, take a moment and complete the poll at this link, and then there'll be an opportunity for you to interact with me about those outcomes. So, for this study, just simple analyses. And what the study revealed is that of all the practices that were in the class, there were five practices: two student care practices, three pedagogical pedagogical care practices. The ones that the students used the most were the opportunity to work with and study with their peers. The live sessions, which people think that students want the most, students themselves say they want them the most. They didn't use that at all. And for the most part, students only use one practice. So when you look at this, the labor that faculty spend putting in the student care practices, putting in the pedagogical care practices, be much more mindful about what you're doing. You probably really only need one or two practices. You need things that fall more on the pedagogical care side, less on the student care side. And when you look at what students say themselves about them using these practices, they're pretty clear. They're using the practices that help them get the work done and that are obviously making them feel less isolated, which is practices where they work with one another, not necessarily practices where they work directly with us, right? So they're doing the working with the peers in this study, but not so much the live sessions with the instructors and also with the peers. So, um, and then that's when they're using them, that's what they're using. And when they're not using them because they're finding ways to be connected outside of the classroom. They're not using them because they're busy. So when you look at students' own words, I just don't want faculty and instructors to be in a habit of expending a lot of labor on practices that students are not utilizing. So, when they are using their time, they're using the pedagogical practices, not the student care practices. Even though they're saying they want the live sessions, they're actually doing more work with their peers when they get to sort of vote on those practices by using their actual time. So when we take a look at this, there are a couple of conclusions that we can draw. Essentially, you can reduce a lot of the time that you spend on student care. Students really aren't taking advantage of those. So that's not an efficient use of faculty time. It might make them feel good, but when they have options about how they're going to actually use their time and engage their practices, they're not really going to do that. So if they're not going to do that, don't spend your time on it. And a lot of those things aren't shown to be really linked to learning outcomes anyway. Again, I'm talking about the sort of social work or those pieces. Student well-being, incredibly important, but very different than pedagogical care. Time on your pedagogical care can be finite. We tend to think of those things as limitless, that we just pour as much time into it as possible, and then we'll get a return on that investment. No, you don't have to do that. That can be finite. You can absolutely have one or two efficient pedagogical care practices that you implement. You can even design that so that the students are doing a lot of that labor themselves. And as you see, the students felt connected. 100% of the students felt connected. So even though they weren't doing the live sessions, they were only engaging in one of the many practices available to them. 100% of them said that they felt connected. Zero of the students said they did not feel connected. And again, when you're putting together, your pedagogical practices, keep in mind that students, they have limited time. They can feel overwhelmed with all of the options that you're providing to them. So it may seem like you're providing them with a lot of options. You're trying to, give them the buffet of options, but that they find that a little bit overwhelming. So make sure that your practices are ones that are easy for students to engage and ones that are valuable for them to engage, right? So, like working with peers to actually complete assignments. And I'm sure this audience already knows that, but asynchronous pedagogical care can absolutely create connection, right? I'll say again, students didn't um, use the live synchronous time at all, but they very much so felt connected. So you should be adjusting your strategies accordingly. So I think that's about it that I have. I'm looking forward to seeing what you all put in the survey. And again, you'll have a way to let me know if you want to chat with me more about the results, if you want me to help you work on streamlining your pedagogical care practices, if you have questions about if it's student care or if it's pedagogical care, if you want to know who's going to do the student care, if you're not doing the student care, definitely reach out to me. My email is there, Chavella at effectivefaculty.org. And then you can reach me on my website as well. So I hope that seeing all of this can make you be much more relaxed about reducing some of the time that you spend on student care as well as pedagogical care, and know that not only are you doing the best thing for you, but you're doing the best thing for student learning as well. All righty, be well.